the emergency session of the Galactic Command Council, convened in the crystalline chambers of Nexus Prime, the administrative heart of a civilization that had ruled the stars for 3 millennia. Holographic displays flickered with tactical readouts, each one more concerning than the last. The assembled representatives beings of various species unified under the banner of Galactic. Orders sat in stunned silence as Admiral Vexthara of the Zephyrian Navy delivered her report. "The humans have done it again," she announced, her forearms gesturing at the massive display showing the Kepler 440 system. "What we initially dismissed as primitive territorial expansion has now cost us the entire Outer Rim defensive grid. In less than 72 standard hours, they've neutralized 17 of our most fortified positions." Chancellor Murden, whose species had been among the founding members of the Galactic Command, leaned forward on his ornate perch. His bioluminescent patches pulsed with agitation. "Impossible. The humans lack faster-than-light communication. They possess no quantum entanglement networks. Their ships are held together with what their own engineers call duct tape and hope. How could such a primitive species coordinate such an assault?" The question hung in the air like a death sentence. For the past 50 years, Earth had been classified as a Class 7 civilization barely capable of interplanetary travel, let alone posing a threat to the established galactic order. The initial contact protocols had been standard: observe, catalog, and prepare for eventual integration under Galactic Command Authority. The humans had been given the same choice offered to every emerging species: submit to the greater good of galactic civilization or face the consequences of isolation. Earth had chosen a third option that no one had anticipated. They had said, "Thank you for the warning," and proceeded to prepare for war. Dr. Zelenoff, the command's chief xenobiologist, activated a series of historical files. "We should have listened to the prelim survey team's warnings about human psychology. The initial reports clearly indicated that Homo sapiens possessed what they termed vindictive adaptability, the ability to thrive under pressure, while simultaneously harboring long-term grudges. The survey team recommended extreme caution, but we dismissed their concerns as academic overcautiousness. The files displayed humanity's history in brutal detail: endless wars, technological leaps born from necessity, and a species that seemed to view impossible odds as merely another challenge to overcome. The Galactic Command had seen it all before, or so they believed. Most species, when faced with the overwhelming technological superiority of the command, chose the path of least resistance. They integrated, they adapted, they became productive members of galactic society. Humans had taken one look at the vast military machine arrayed against them, and had apparently decided it wasn't vast enough. The Kepler incident was not an isolated event, continued Admiral Vexthara. Our intelligence networks have detected similar patterns across 17 different systems. The humans aren't just fighting us, they're hurting us. Every tactical victory we've achieved has somehow positioned our forces exactly where they wanted us to be. The implications were staggering. For 3 years, the Galactic Command had been winning every engagement against Earth's forces. Human ships were destroyed in every battle, their colonies evacuated or abandoned, their defensive positions overrun with mathematical precision. The command's generals had praised themselves for their efficiency, their ability to maintain galactic order in the face of human defiance. Now, those same victories were beginning to look like carefully orchestrated defeats. Commander Zekran, of the Tactical Analysis Division, projected a star map showing the past 3 years of conflict. "Observe the pattern. Every system we've liberated from human control has been strategically worthless. Resource-poor worlds, failed colonies, or experimental stations that the humans evacuated long before we arrived. Meanwhile, our forces have been drawn into increasingly extended supply lines, stretched across 17 sectors, pursuing an enemy that seems to vanish the moment we achieve overwhelming local superiority." The map showed it clearly. The Galactic Command's mighty fleets, once concentrated in easily defensible positions, were now scattered across the galaxy like seeds in the wind. Each victory had required repositioning, each new target had demanded fresh resources, and each successful campaign had somehow left them weaker than before. "The humans call it rope-a-dope," Dr. Zelenoff explained, accessing another historical file. An ancient combat strategy where the weaker opponent allows the stronger to exhaust themselves through seemingly successful attacks. Muhammad Ali used it against George Foreman in 1974. The humans have simply scaled it up to galactic proportions. The silence that followed was deafening. The assembled representatives of advanced civilizations, species that had mastered faster than light, travel, quantum mechanics, and the fundamental forces of the universe, were being outmaneuvered by a species that still used chemical rockets and had only recently figured out how to keep their nuclear weapons from accidentally destroying themselves. But it was Admiral Vexthara's next revelation that truly shattered their confidence. The Kepler 442 engagement wasn't a defeat, she said quietly. It was a trap. The humans didn't just neutralize our defensive grid, they captured it. All 17 stations are now under Earth control. Their weapons systems reversed to target our supply lines. We haven't lost the outer rim. We've handed them the keys to the inner systems. The chamber erupted in panicked discussions. Representatives demanded explanations, shouted accusations, and called for immediate military action. Through it all, Chancellor Murden sat in contemplative silence, his bioluminescent patches now pulsing with a deep, worried blue. "How long?" he finally asked, his voice cutting through the chaos. "How long have we been playing their game instead of our own?" The question would haunt the Galactic Command for generations to come. But the answer was already becoming clear. From the moment Earth had thanked them for their warning and begun preparing for war, humanity had been playing a game with rules the Command had never encountered. The deliberate transformation of certain defeat into inevitable victory. One carefully orchestrated loss at a time. And now, as their fleets scattered across the galaxy and their defensive positions compromised, the Galactic Command was beginning to realize that Earth had them exactly where it wanted them, overextended, predictable, and completely unprepared for whatever came next. 3 months after the Kepler revelation, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiance, watching the most audacious military operation in human history unfold before her eyes. The irony wasn't lost on her that the ship's name had been chosen as a joke, a tongue-in-cheek reference to humanity's supposedly hopeless resistance against galactic civilization. Now, as she watched Galactic Command fleets scrambling to respond to simultaneous attacks across 47 systems, the name seemed prophetic. "Ma'am, we're receiving confirmation from all theater commanders," reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson, his voice barely containing his excitement. "Operation Checkmate is proceeding exactly as planned. The command fleets are responding to our finds in the Vega, Altair, and Centauri systems. Their reserve forces are moving to intercept." Sarah nodded, her expression calm despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. For 3 years, Earth's military leadership had been playing the longest con in galactic history. Every retreat had been calculated, every defeat choreographed, every apparent weakness deliberately exposed. They had turned humanity's greatest disadvantage, their technological inferiority, into their most powerful weapon. "Show me the Proxima Theater," she ordered. The main display shifted to show a tactical map of the Proxima Centauri system, where Admiral Elena Vasquez was conducting what appeared to be a desperate last stand against overwhelming Galactic Command forces. The human fleet looked pitiful: 17 aging destroyers and 3 hastily converted merchant vessels facing off against full command battle groups. But Sarah knew better. Those aging destroyers were packed with experimental technology that the Command had never seen before. The merchant vessels were actually prototype carriers launching something that would revolutionize space warfare. And Admiral Vasquez wasn't making a last stand. She was conducting the final movement of humanity's greatest symphony of deception. "The beautiful thing about being underestimated," Sarah murmured to herself, "is that nobody expects you to have been preparing for this moment since the day they first showed up." The truth was that humanity had begun preparing for this war. The moment the Galactic Command's peaceful first contact had revealed their true intentions. While the Command had seen primitive humans with chemical rockets and nuclear weapons, Earth's leaders had seen something else entirely. A military doctrine that had remained unchanged. For 3 millennia, tactics that relied on overwhelming technological superiority, and most importantly, an enemy that had forgotten how to fight against an opponent who refused to play by their rules. Dr. Amanda Foster, Earth's chief xenopsychologist, had been the first to understand the command's fatal flaw. They're not warriors, she had told the Emergency Defense Council during those first frantic weeks after contact. They're administrators. They've been the dominant power for so long that they've forgotten how to adapt to genuine opposition. They expect compliance, not creativity. That insight had shaped every aspect of Earth's resistance, while the command had expected humanity to build bigger ships and better weapons. Earth had instead focused on something far more dangerous: psychological warfare on a galactic scale. The first phase had been deception. Earth had deliberately showcased their most primitive technologies, while hiding their true capabilities. When command scouts observed human space forces, they saw exactly what they expected: crude chemical rockets, primitive fusion reactors, and weapons that seemed barely capable of scratching command armor. They never looked deeper, never questioned why a species capable of interstellar travel was still using such apparently obsolete technology. The second phase had been misdirection. Every human defeat had been carefully orchestrated to draw command forces away from their strategic positions. Earth had sacrificed dozens of colonies, abandoned hundreds of installations, and allowed thousands of military personnel to be captured, all to create a pattern of behavior that the command would find predictable and comforting. The third phase had been patience. For 3 years, humanity had endured the humiliation of constant tactical defeats, while secretly celebrating each strategic victory. Every command fleet that pursued retreating human forces was a fleet that wasn't defending vital command infrastructure. Every system the humans lost was a system where command forces had to establish new supply lines, new communication networks, and new defensive positions. Now, as Sarah watched the real-time tactical displays, she could see the culmination of humanity's greatest gambit. The command fleets, scattered across 17 sectors in pursuit of what they believed to be a broken human resistance, were about to discover that they had been chasing ghosts while the real threat prepared to strike. At the heart of galactic civilization itself, "Ma'am," Jackson reported, "we're receiving the final confirmation from Operation Prometheus. The sleeper agents are in position." Sarah's smile was cold and predatory. The sleeper agents, human prisoners of war who had been captured during the previous 3 years, were now stationed on command vessels, installations, and administrative centers across the galaxy. The command's own mercy had become their downfall. Their insistence on treating human prisoners according to galactic conventions had allowed Earth to place assets throughout their entire command structure. But the sleeper agents were just the beginning. The real surprise was what humanity had been building while the command was distracted by their string of tactical victories. "Activate the Damocles network," Sarah ordered. Across the galaxy, humanity's true fleet began to reveal itself. Not the aging destroyers and converted merchant vessels that the command had been fighting, but something that represented the pinnacle of human engineering. Ships that didn't just use advanced technology, but had been designed from the ground up to exploit every weakness in command doctrine. The Damocles, humanity's first true dreadnought, decloaked directly above the command's administrative center on Nexus Prime. It was followed by 17 identical vessels, each one emerging from concealment in systems that the command had considered completely secure. "Target confirmed," reported the tactical officer. "All Damocles-class vessels are in position. The command's primary fleet concentrations are exactly where intelligence predicted they would be." Sarah keyed her communicator to broadcast across all human frequencies. "This is Captain Chen to all units. Operation Checkmate is now active. I repeat, Operation Checkmate is now active. Show them what happens when you underestimate the ingenuity of a species that learned to fight by fighting each other for 10,000 years." The response came not just from the hidden fleet, but from every human installation, every captured facility, and every sleeper agent throughout command space. In a coordinated strike that spanned the entire galaxy, humanity revealed that they had never been the desperate, primitive species the command had believed them to be. They had been predators, patient and cunning. who had spent 3 years positioning their prey exactly where they wanted them. The hunt was about to begin in earnest. Admiral Keffer of the Galactic Command's First Fleet had been in the middle of dictating his daily report when the impossible happened. The bridge of his flagship, the GCS Eternal Dominion, had suddenly erupted in chaos as sensor alarms screamed warnings that made no sense. According to his instruments, 18 massive vessels had simply materialized around Nexus Prime ships that shouldn't exist, wielding technology that defied every known law of physics. "Sir, we're receiving emergency transmissions from Command Central," his communications officer reported, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. "Nexus Prime is under attack. The entire orbital defense grid has been compromised. They're requesting immediate assistance from all available fleets." Keffer stared at the tactical display in disbelief. For 3 years, he had been chasing human forces across the Outer Rim, achieving victory after victory against their pathetic excuse for a military. Their ships had been slow, their weapons primitive, their tactics so predictable that his tactical computer could anticipate their movements with 97% accuracy. The humans had been nothing more than an irritating insurrection that would eventually be crushed by the weight of galactic civilization. Now, as he watched the impossible unfold, he realized that everything he thought he knew about humanity had been a carefully constructed lie. "Sir," his tactical officer interrupted, "we're receiving similar distress calls from 46 other command installations. The humans are attacking simultaneously across 17 sectors. Our response fleets they're being systematically destroyed." The words hit Keffer like a physical blow. 17 sectors, 46 installations. This wasn't a desperate last stand by a dying species. This was a coordinated assault on the entire command infrastructure. But how was it possible? The humans barely had 17 ships capable of faster-than-light travel. According to his intelligence reports, they certainly didn't have the resources to mount simultaneous attacks across the galaxy. "Show me the tactical analysis of their new vessels," he ordered. The main display shifted to show a close-up scan of one of the ships attacking Nexus Prime. The S. Damocles, according to the identification beacon, was unlike anything in the command's extensive database. Its hull seemed to absorb sensor scans, its weapons' signatures were completely unknown, and its maneuvering capabilities suggested propulsion technology that was at least 2 centuries ahead of anything the command possessed. "How?" Keffer whispered. "How did they hide this from us?" The answer came from an unexpected source, Dr. Marcus Webb, a human prisoner who had been kept aboard the Eternal Dominion for the past 8 months, was escorted onto the bridge in restraints. Keffer had been using him as a consultant, believing that the human's insider knowledge might provide insight into his species' psychology. Now, as Webb looked at the tactical displays, his expression wasn't one of surprise, it was one of satisfaction. "You want to know how?" Webb asked, his voice carrying an edge that hadn't been there during his months of apparent cooperation. "You want to know how a primitive species managed to outmaneuver the greatest military force in galactic history?" Keffer nodded, his pride temporarily set aside in favor of desperate need for understanding. Webb smiled, and for the first time, Keffer saw something in the human's eyes that chilled him to the bone. It wasn't fear or resignation or even defiance. It was the cold calculation of a predator who had been playing with his prey. "We did it by being exactly what you expected us to be," Webb explained. "Primitive, predictable, pathetic. You see, Admiral, you made the same mistake that every conquering power in human history has made. You assumed that superior technology meant superior intelligence. You forgot that intelligence isn't about having the best tools. It's about using whatever tools you have more creatively than your opponent." The revelation hit Keffer like a cascade of dominoes falling. The humans hadn't been losing for 3 years, they had been learning. Every defeat had been a data-gathering exercise. Every captured human had been a spy. Every destroyed human vessel had been a deliberate sacrifice to study command tactics, weapons, and psychology. "The ships you've been fighting," Webb continued, "were deliberately designed to be inferior. We built them to fail in predictable ways, to reinforce your assumptions about our technological limitations. While you were congratulating yourselves on your tactical brilliance, We were analyzing every aspect of your military doctrine, identifying every weakness, every blind spot, every predictable response pattern. Webb gestured toward the tactical display showing the command's scattered fleets. Look at your current positions, Admiral. Really look at them. You have 17 separate fleet concentrations, each one pursuing what you believe to be isolated human resistance cells. Your forces are spread across the galaxy. Your supply lines are overextended, and your reserve forces are committed to defending systems that we never intended to hold. The truth was devastating in its simplicity. The humans had used the command's own tactical superiority against them. Every successful command operation had been permitted, encouraged, and secretly guided to achieve humanity's strategic objectives. The command hadn't been winning, they had been herded like livestock toward slaughter. But this is impossible, Keffer protested. Our intelligence networks, our surveillance systems, our monitoring protocols, how did you hide your true capabilities? From us, Webb's smile widened. We didn't hide them, Admiral. We built them right under your nose. Every primitive human facility you observed was actually a sophisticated manufacturing center. Every captured human was actually a graduate of our intelligence academy. Every defeated human fleet was actually a carefully orchestrated intelligence gathering operation. The implications were staggering. The command's entire understanding of human capabilities had been based on deliberate misinformation. The humans had shown them exactly what they wanted to see while secretly preparing for this moment. The Damocles-class vessels, Webb continued, were built using technology reverse-engineered from your own ships. We spent 3 years capturing command vessels, studying their systems, and improving on their designs. Your own technological superiority became the foundation for our weapons. But even as the horrifying scope of human deception became clear, Keffer realized there was something else. The way Webb was explaining their strategy, the casual confidence in his voice, the timing of this revelation, it was all too convenient. The humans were still playing a game within a game. You're telling me this for a reason, Keffer said slowly. This isn't just gloating. You want me to know something specific. Webb nodded approvingly. Very good, Admiral. You're finally starting to think like a human. Yes, I'm telling you this for a reason. I'm telling you because in approximately 37 minutes, you're going to receive a transmission from Earth. It will be a surrender offer, humanity's final attempt to negotiate a peaceful resolution to this conflict. Keffer's confusion was evident. A surrender offer, but you're winning. You've achieved tactical superiority. Why would you surrender now? Webb's expression became genuinely sad. Because, Admiral, what you're seeing isn't our victory, it's our demonstration. We're showing you exactly what we're capable of when we stop pretending to be primitives. The question now is whether the Galactic Command is wise enough to accept our terms, or whether you'll force us to show you what we're capable of when we stop playing games entirely. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. If this devastating assault was merely a demonstration of human capability, what would happen if they decided to wage actual war? You see, Admiral, Webb continued, humanity learned something important from studying your civilization. We learned that you've been at peace for so long, that you've forgotten what war actually looks like. This, he gestured at the tactical displays, this is still us being merciful. This is us giving you a chance to surrender with dignity intact. As if summoned by his words, the communications officer announced, Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's a surrender offer. They're requesting immediate ceasefire negotiations. Keffer looked at Webb with a mixture of fear and newfound respect. And if we refuse? Webb's smile disappeared entirely. Then you'll discover why every species that has ever fought humanity has either learned to coexist with us or learned to fear us. The choice, Admiral, is yours. The transmission from Earth waited for a response, while around them, the greatest military force in galactic history grappled with the realization that they had been outmaneuvered by a species they had dismissed as primitive. The humans had proven they could match the command's technology, exceed their tactics, and surpass their strategic thinking. Now they were offering peace. But the subtext was clear: accept it, or discover what humanity was truly capable of. When the gloves came off entirely, the emergency session of the Galactic Command Council had been relocated to the backup facility on Kepler 438b, deep within the inner systems. The crystalline chambers of Nexus Prime were now under human control, along with most of the command's primary infrastructure. Chancellor Murden sat at the head of the hastily assembled council, his bioluminescent patches flickering with patterns that hadn't been seen in over 2 millennia, the colors of a species facing extinction. The humans have given us 72 hours to respond to their terms, he announced, his voice carrying the weight of 3,000 years of galactic authority, now reduced to desperate negotiation. I want to hear from every department head, every military commander, every intelligence officer. What are our options? The silence that followed was deafening. Admiral Vexthara was the first to speak, her forearms trembling with barely contained rage. Our options? Chancellor, we have no options. In the past 18 hours, humanity has demonstrated that they can strike anywhere in command space at will. They've captured our most secure facilities, disabled our most advanced defense systems, and done it all while offering us the courtesy of a negotiated surrender. It's not surrender, corrected Dr. Zelenoth, accessing the terms that Earth had transmitted. It's partnership. They're offering us a place in what they call the Terran Cooperative. Look at these terms. They're not demanding tribute. They're not seeking to dismantle our government. They're not even asking for territory. They want cooperation. The terms were indeed unlike anything the command had ever encountered. Humanity was offering to share their advanced technology, to maintain existing governmental structures, and to work together on what they called mutual galactic development. The only requirement was that the command abandon its policy of forced integration and accept that different species might have different approaches to civilization. It's a trap, insisted General Crixtal of the Command Marines. No conquering species offers terms this generous. They're planning something. They have to be. But Dr. Zelenoth was already shaking his head. I've been analyzing human psychology for the past 3 years, ever since the initial warnings about their vindictive adaptability. This isn't a trap, it's exactly what they've been trying to tell us all along. They don't want to conquer us. They want to be left alone to develop their own civilization. Then why demonstrate such overwhelming force? Demanded Admiral Vexthara. Why reveal technology that's centuries ahead of our own? Why show us that they can destroy us at will? The answer came from an unexpected source, Commander Zekrin, who had been quietly analyzing the tactical data from the past 24 hours, looked up from her displays with an expression of dawning horror. Because they're not showing us their military technology, she whispered. They're showing us their restraint. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Commander Zekrin activated a series of tactical analyses, her voice growing stronger as she continued. I've been studying the human attacks on our installations, the precision, the surgical nature of their strikes, the way they systematically disabled our defenses without causing unnecessary casualties. They could have destroyed everything, our ships, our stations, our entire infrastructure. Instead, they captured it intact. She gestured to a display showing the aftermath of the assault on Nexus Prime. Look at this. The primary governmental complex is undamaged. The civilian sectors are completely untouched. Even our military installations were captured rather than destroyed. They're not trying to break us, they're trying to preserve us. Chancellor Murden leaned forward, his bioluminescent patches shifting to patterns of deep contemplation. Continue your analysis. Commander, the Damocles-class vessels, Zekrin explained, represent a fundamental shift in military philosophy. They're not warships in the traditional sense, they're enforcement tools. They're designed to end conflicts quickly and decisively, with minimal casualties on both sides. The humans have created a military doctrine based on deterrence through overwhelming superiority, not destruction through superior firepower. Dr. Zelenoth was nodding slowly. It fits with their psychological profile. Humans are simultaneously one of the most violent and most empathetic species we've ever encountered. They're capable of incredible brutality, but they're also capable of extraordinary mercy. They've been trying to find a way to coexist with us from the beginning, but their deception, protested Admiral Vexthara. The years of lies, the carefully orchestrated defeats, the sleeper agents were necessary because we wouldn't listen. Chancellor Murden interrupted, his voice heavy with the weight of realization. We gave them a choice, submit or face isolation. They chose to create a third option, demonstrate that forced submission was impossible while offering genuine partnership instead. The tactical displays shifted to show the current disposition of forces throughout the galaxy. Human ships were positioned at every major command installation, but they weren't occupying them, they were protecting them. The realization was staggering. Humanity had achieved total strategic dominance and was using it to prevent the very chaos that their victory might have caused. They're not conquerors, whispered Dr. Zelenoth. They're guardians. They've positioned themselves to maintain galactic stability while we decide whether to accept their partnership. Commander Zekrin brought up another display, this one showing intercepted human communications. There's something else. According to our intelligence intercepts, the human leadership is deeply divided about this operation. A significant faction wanted to simply disappear, to take their advanced technology and establish hidden colonies beyond our reach. Another faction wanted to demonstrate their capabilities and then demand territorial concessions. And the faction that won, asked Chancellor Murden, wanted to prove that coexistence was possible. Zekrin replied, they believe that the galaxy is big enough for multiple approaches to civilization. They want to preserve the command's governmental structures while establishing their own sphere of influence. They're offering us a galaxy where force isn't the ultimate arbiter of disputes. The weight of the moment settled over the assembled council. For 3 millennia, the Galactic Command had maintained order through superior technology and the threat of overwhelming force. Now they were being offered partnership by a species that had proven capable of outthinking them, outmaneuvering them, and outfighting them, but chose instead to outnegotiate them. There's one more thing, Commander, Zekrin continued, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. The technology they've demonstrated, the advanced propulsion, the sensor-absorbing hulls, the precision targeting systems, it's all based on theoretical frameworks that our own scientists developed but never pursued. They didn't surpass our technology by being more advanced. They surpassed it by being more creative with the same fundamental principles. The implications were profound. Humanity hadn't developed superior technology through superior intelligence. They had developed it through superior necessity. Faced with an impossible challenge, they had found impossible solutions. Given the choice between surrender and extinction, they had chosen evolution. Chancellor Murden stood, his ancient form straightening with renewed purpose. The vote will be held in 6 hours. Each representative will have the opportunity to speak. But I want everyone in this chamber to understand something. We're not just voting on whether to accept human terms. We're voting on whether to evolve beyond the limitations that have defined galactic civilization. For 3,000 years, as the Council prepared for the most important vote in galactic history, a new transmission arrived from Earth. It was a simple message, delivered by a human child who couldn't have been more than 10 years old. Hi, my name is Emma, and I live on Earth. My mom says you're all really smart, and that you've been taking care of the galaxy for a long time. We don't want to fight anymore. We just want to be friends and maybe learn some cool stuff from each other. Oh, and if you like ice cream, we have lots of different flavors. I bet you'd like chocolate chip cookie dough. The transmission ended with the child waving enthusiastically at the camera, her innocent smile a stark contrast to the devastating military demonstration that had preceded it. In that moment, the assembled representatives of the Galactic Command understood the final, most important truth about humanity. They were a species capable of engineering the most sophisticated military deception in galactic history, but they were also a species that would have a child deliver their message of peace. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. The age of forced galactic unity was over. The age of cooperative diversity had begun. And somewhere in the depths of space, Captain Sarah Chen received the transmission and smiled, knowing that humanity had finally achieved what they had always wanted, the right to be themselves in a galaxy big enough for everyone. The Galactic Command had disregarded the warnings, and now Earth had them exactly where it wanted them, as partners in a future that neither species could have imagined alone.